Hello everyone and welcome to another incredible game from the Sinquefield Cup of the Grand Chess Tour. It is Fabiano Caruana versus Anish Giri from the final round, and Fabi had an incredible event. He played incredible chess after losing the first round game to Alireza Firuja, so it is also fitting that Alireza wins the entire event. Following the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz tournament, he also wins the Sinquefield Cup, yeah, this is a masterclass, and also the other one that we are going to show, MVL versus Dinglier, and also a very nice game, so we're going to show that one, and then we're going to discuss the standings, and then the live ratings at the end of the game. So let's check it out. Fabi 2793, trying to hit that 2800 again, and Anish, well, going towards 2750 and not having the best event. We have pawn to c4. Fabi opens with an English. We have knight to f6, knight to f3, and pawn to e6 and g3. The setup against the Agincourt defense, d5, and now bishop to g2. We have bishop to e7, and both Fabi and Anish castle. So castles, d3, and pawn to c5. Both of them pretty much pre-moving this. As you can see, I've added the clocks this video. A player still above the 2-hour mark. We have knight to e5, knight b to d7, and knight captures on d7. We have bishop captures on d7. Still everything played instantly. Nothing new being played here. e4, d captures on e4, d captures, and bishop to c6. We have queen to e2, defending the e4 pawn, and knight to d7. We have pawn to f4, and there is a game where queen to c7 was played. It was played last year in the Rubinstein Memorial between Vitaly Bernardsky and David Gavrilescu, and Gavrilescu lost that game facing queen to c7. But here we have pawn to a6 by Anish, and it is now, as of move 12, that we have a completely new game. So, okay, pawn to a4, that's not a pawn. Stopping pawn to b5, we have queen to c7, and knight to c3. We have bishop to f6 and pawn to e5, attacking the bishop and offering a trade of light square bishop. So Anish trades on g2, captures king, capture. You could also capture with the queen. It's a matter of personal preference, I would say. King captures. We have bishop to e7 and bishop to d2. Connecting rooks, we have rook 8 to e8. Rook 8 to d8 does seem like a more reasonable square for the rook, and to my barbarian brain, it definitely makes more sense. But you have to be a very, very strong player to play a move like rook 8 to e8, as Anish has other plans. We have knight to e4 and queen to c6. Now pinning the knight, we have queen to f3, unpinning, and pawn to f5. This is Anish's idea behind putting the rook on e8. Point being that now if you play knight to d8 and let's say, okay, bishop captures, queens get traded off, captures, then the rooks are very well placed here. e5 is coming next. You have support for some f4 perhaps in the future, and it's a nice position. But Fabi plays e captures on f6, en passant, and g captures. Knight captures on f6, probably the safer choice, but Anish, already having an interesting event, is not about to play it safe in the final round. G captures on f6, bishop to c3, and pawn to f5. Kicking away the knight, we have rook f to d1. Rook f to d1. Now, what's the idea? Oh, the idea, of course, is that if pawn captures knight, then you will give a queen to g4 check, and you actually checkmate the black king. After a move like king f7, queen to g7 is checkmate, and if you play bishop to g5, then you first capture, and then you deliver queen to g7 checkmate. So knight to b6, and now knight to d2. Offering a queen trade, Anish accepts, knight captures, king captures, and rook to d8. We have king to e2, rook to d6, preparing to double up on the d file, and here pawn to a5. Kicks away the knight, knight d7, and now a beautiful move by Fabi, one of my favorite moves this game, knight to e4. And it looks like really what is Fabi doing? Is that just a free knight? Sure looks like it. The thing is that if pawn captures knight, then rook captures on d6, bishop captures, and rook 8 to d1, you will win back your piece. There's no way to defend the bishop, and if you move it, the knight will fall. So Anish simply plays rook captures on d1, rook captures on d1, and now rook to d8. We have knight to d6, and now knight to f6. The cleanest way to solve this position is just bishop captures and king to f7, defending the pawn. But I guess Anish wanted more. He played knight to f7, he kept the tension, and now the position is completely winning for Fabi, but only if you spot what Fabi spotted in the game. Feel free to pause the video and win the game while I give you a couple of seconds. So, for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on calculating this out to the very end. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is bishop captures on f6. Not the move that first comes to mind, but you know how it is. First you calculate captures, then you calculate checks, and only then you calculate, well, what piece maybe could be improved. So this is the first thing that we check. Bishop captures on f6, bishop captures, and now knight captures on b7. And now Anish has to decide, trade rooks or keep the rooks in the game. Let's first try to keep the rook in the game with something like rook to b8. Okay, let's put pressure on the knight. All of a sudden, rook to d7. Defending the knight and cutting off the black king from entering the game. But okay, you will win the b2 pawn. Now white wins the c5 pawn, and now you play rook c5. You go after the knight. Knight captures on a6, rook captures on c4, and now knight to b8. And it seems like black is almost there if you can somehow win back the pawn. The problem is, even if you put the rook behind the passed pawn, let's say pawn to a6 and bishop to d4, stopping pawn to a7, there's the very cool trick of knight to c6, attacking the bishop so you cannot capture on a6, and once the bishop moves, now you play a7, and that's it. The pawn is nicely defended by the knight and by the rook. Next move is rook b7, rook b8 check, a8 queen, and Anish will have to give up the rook, and that's a game. So you have to calculate it out, okay, with 24 minutes, of course, that's plenty for Anish to calculate this out. So he played rook captures on d1. You can see he even spent some 11 minutes on this move. King captures on d1, and now we have bishop to e7. Again, you could play bishop captures on b2 right away, but even without the rooks on the board, we can just show knight captures on c5, bishop c3, you go after this pawn, knight captures on e6, bishop captures on a5, and now knight to c5. You can win the pawn on a light square, but the dark square bishop can never win the pawn on a light square. That's the sad story of the bishops. That's why they work best in pairs. King f7, for example, knight captures on a6, and now with two extra pawns, of course, the position is completely winning for white. So after king captures on d1, bishop to e7, just guarding on c5, and now there is but one winning move, but I'm sure you guys know what it is without even pausing the video. As it always is, pawn to b4. This is what Fabi played. C captures, pawn to c5. This makes the pawn promote a little bit faster. King f7, we have king to c2, king to e8, and now pawn to c6. We have bishop to, d8, bishop to f8. It's a waiting move really just to see if Fabi can actually win this position. King to b3, and now bishop to e7. We have king to c4, pawn to h5, and king to d3. We have bishop to f8 and king to d4. Fabi running around a little bit, trying to figure out what the best way to win this is, as he has all the time in the world. He can just move his king around, making sure he doesn't repeat the position 3 times. Bishop to g7 check. Now the problem is you either allow king c5 or king e5, but you have to allow one of those. So Anish gives bishop to g7 check. We have king to c5, bishop to f8 check, king to b6, and now pawn to b3. It looks like Anish is very close to queening, and queening even comes with check, but there's a beautiful maneuver here from Fabi, and that is pawn to c7, king to d7, and now how do you win this? Once again, feel free to pause the video for the last time and win the game for Fabi while I give you a couple of seconds. Of course, the move is the first move that you think of. No, in the middle of the video, I said it wrong. Yeah, first you look for checks, then you look for captures. Or did I say it that way? Yeah. I will have to check how the quote actually goes. But yeah, I'm pretty sure first you look for checks or mates. But, you know, a mate is a check. So knight to c5 check. Congratulations if you found this, because it's not, you know, all that simple. The idea is that if bishop captures, you play king b7. That's why you move the knight from b7. And now the pawn queens on a light square with check, and black is simply not in time. This comes with check. Only move. If you go to d6, then of course queen d8 is checkmate. And if you go here, then you capture the bishop with check, and you easily stop the promotion of the pawn. So after knight c5 check, king to c8 was played, but now you just lose the b3 pawn, which is the only source of black's counterplay that Anish has. Bishop to d6, we have knight to d4, and now bishop captures on c7 with check, king captures on a6, and he was in this position on move 47 that Anish Giri resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Okay, for those of you who are maybe not that, you know, well-rounded in the knight versus bishop endgame, maybe this could still be tricky, so I will show you the simplest way to win. Okay, if white grabs the e6 pawn, then it's game over. So obviously we're gonna defend it. Now let's say king b5, we make room for the passed pawn to start marching forward. Bishop to b8. Black says, all right, I'm guarding the a7 square. How are you winning this? Well, knight to c6. You know, when there's a knight, there's a way. We have to use our trickery. Bishop to c7, pawn to a6, and now after king to c8, because the king will have to be the one guarding the a8 square, a7, king to b7, and now knight to d4. You go after the e6 pawn, and after pawn to e5, you will play knight to e6, threatening to capture and promote the pawn. So bishop to d6, and now you play knight to d8 with check. You either force the king to move or to capture. Doesn't really matter, but since you're already here, you might as well capture. And now f captures on e5. Look at this, beautiful. If bishop captures, knight c6 check wins the bishop. And if you don't want to lose the bishop, you have to allow the pawn to start marching forward. King to c6, we cut off the black king from helping out, and that's it. We will put a king on d7, and then the simple e6, e7, e8 wins the game. Or, you know, you win the bishop, then you win the 2 pawns, and then one of these pawns will queen, and then you'll win the game this way. So, of course, if you're new to chess, it seems kind of maybe premature to resign here, but of course, both Fabi and Anish know that that's exactly what's going to happen, so it doesn't really make sense to prolong this. Like, the chance of an error here by Fabi is, well, it's never zero, but Anish would feel silly trying to play this, hoping for something. So yeah, beautiful play by Fabi, and he also wins some rating, which is when you're 2793 and there are only 2 players who are higher rated than you, Hikaru and Magnus, the only 2 2800s in the world at the moment. I mean, playing a super tournament and winning rating is quite impressive, but if you look at what Alireza did, and these are the only 32 people in the world who are rated 2700 and above, you can see that Alireza won 15.6 points, which is absolutely incredible. He shot up 4 squares from number 9 to number 5, and this is the world top 32 now. Magnus, Hikaru, Fabiano, Arjun Erigaisi, Alireza Firuja, Nodrbek Abdusataro, Gukesh, Wei Yi, and Yanni Pomnishi and Wesley So. So those are the top 10. Anand number 11, but you know, he always finds his way back into the top 10. Pragnananda, Linier Dominguez Perez, Kwang Liam Le, Ding Liren, and Hans Niemann already on number 16. You can see that Hans shot up 11 places from 27 to 16. Incredible stuff by Hans. Mamedjarov, Duda, MVL, Vincent Keimer, Aronyan, Anish, Maksudlu, Vidit, Raport, Tabatabai, Sarana, Yuyang Yi, Wang Hao, Artemiev, Rajabov, and Ray Robson. So those are the top players. And Alireza, as he got that draw against Pragnananda in the final round that we've discussed in the previous video, he edged out Fabi just by half a point, even though, like I said, Fabi had an incredible event, but he did lose to Alireza in round 1. Without that loss, you know, could have been a draw, but then it would probably be a completely different tournament. Like, it's not even the butterfly effect, like it's a drastic difference. So we have Alireza not just winning the Sinquefield Cup, like we said, he also won the St. Louis Rapid and Blitzstrom, and he also wins the entire Grand Chess Tour. They've mentioned netting him a little bit over $300,000. So that is, I mean, absolutely incredible. Very happy for him. And we'll see what this means for him. Will he pursue chess? Will he go into fashion? Can we expect him in the next candidates tournament? Can we expect him to do well in the candidates tournament? Because it's sort of easy for him to qualify, but not easy for him to win it. I mean, players just play different chess in the candidates tournament. So we'll see what happens. But he is the one to beat. He is the one that has the potential to become the next Magnus. We'll see how it goes. Many players have the potential. We'll see, you know, which one actually takes that next step. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Beautiful stuff by Fabi. Like I said, we're also going to show the Ding versus MVL game, as it is quite nice. I would like to thank Robert Stadelman, Jacob Servala, Jake Obid, Otis the Great Dane who loves chess, and Andre Schrade for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.